Last night, I was watching the Phillies game, and I was all excited, like race home after Jalen Hurts' press conference. I made it in time for first pitch, watched every pitch of the game. I was all excited. Then it ended, and I was like, all right, got to go write Sua. My Sua Opeta story to write. It's just, watching the greatest athletes in Philly and then writing about them.
Well, yeah. Is it hard for you to change gears like that?
Honestly, yeah, I was a little I was excited. So,
yeah. Like I'll come home from a concert and then sit down and start writing about DeAndre Swift or something, which I did last night. So yeah. Sua, he's a good story. We'll talk about him.
Yeah, we'll talk about him. We have a bunch of stuff to get to. This is the Eagle Eye podcast presented by Nissan. He's Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. Yeah, we're going to talk about Sua in a little bit and the murderer's row of defensive tackles he's facing. We have some Eagles-Jets matchups to get to, some injury news that we have to talk about. And that's kind of where we start with this podcast. Nakobe Dean back at practice this week. They opened his 21-day practice window. He was out there Wednesday. He was a limited participant. What I watched of him, he looked fine. He looked just about ready to go. I know you talked to him. What did he have to say?
Yeah, he said he's close to 100%. He was asked if he's 100%. He said, I'm right about there. The Eagles are usually conservative with these things. And the way the 21-day window opens, you have 21 days to either activate them or shut them down for the year. Obviously, they're going to activate them either for this game or the next one. Generally, they wait a week. A guy will practice for a week, and they'll keep him on IR and then activate him the next week. I think he might play. We saw him on the side field last week, and he was running. He said the last test for him is the contact part, and if somebody steps on his foot, is he at any more risk? He said that's the thing, and he was glad they had pads on. They padded up yesterday for practice because he said that'll give him a better sense of the contact part of it. Which, look, he's been doing it his whole life, but it's a month off, and it takes some getting used to. He said he's never missed a game going back to Little League. He'd never missed a game in his
pretty
life. Crazy,
especially I know he's undersized in the NFL, but he was undersized in college.
He's probably undersized in high school.
Maybe not high school, but yeah.
But yeah, so it's a new experience for him, and he said he really wanted to make sure that he used the time off to better himself, and he said he was really engaged. He wanted to go to LA.
I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
Nick Sirianni brought that up in his press conference. He asked him about what he wanted to see from Nakobe during that layoff, and he said, we don't bring all the injured players to every road game, but Nakobe wanted to be there, and not only did he get something out of it, but he felt like he helped the team from the sideline too.
Yeah, exactly. It was kind of a two-way thing. He said he learned just by watching Zach Cunningham and Nicholas Morrow play, but also when he saw things he could share with them when they came on the sideline. And he's such a cerebral player. So he said, I just wanted to stay in the game. He learned the game plan each week. He knew, like he said, he prepared as if he was going to play, and he wanted to just keep the same routine. So he's really impressive that way. He's so serious-minded, and I think he'll play. I think he'll be ready. But we've seen the Eagles take the conservative route with these things in the past. So it's probably not a lock, but I think it's most likely he'll be out there.
I'm excited to see him play. I came into the season looking forward to watching Nakobe Dean play, and it was kind of a letdown when he got hurt in week one because he kind of waited a year to watch this guy play football, and then he gets hurt right away. You got some orange juice there, huh?
A little OJ.
Okay. You're a big orange juice guy?
I love orange juice.
You go pulp or no pulp?
I went no pulp this time, but only because it was in the front of the case.
Okay.
I'm really.
Do you have a preference?
I don't mind a little pulp.
A little pulp's fine. Like that heavy pulp stuff. I don't want to drink an orange.
No.
Yeah.
Medium pulp, I'm okay with. No pulp, I'm okay.
Okay. Yeah. So I was really.
We didn't have that in our budget.
I'm sorry.
I'm not sure why we're talking.
I heard you open something and I didn't know what it was, and then of all the things I expected, orange juice wasn't up there.
It just seemed like an OJ kind of day.
Okay, you're a big OJ fan. We established that on the last pod.
Pat O'Brien's.
Yeah. So I want to see Nakobe Dean play. I obviously loved his game at Georgia, and I thought it was a steal in the third round. And then we didn't get to see him at all his rookie season. And I understand that Nicholas Morrow has done some really good things. And I've gotten a lot of comments like Morrow needs to stay on the field. And I understand that because He's played well. He's given them something, and he's a great story too.
Yeah.
I mean, they cut this guy. He was on the practice squad, and now he's been a starter for 4 games. But I still think Nakobe has more upside, and you're still
Sure.
early in the season, and I want to see this guy play.
Yeah, I agree. And it is a good story. And I think they probably feel better about their linebacker depth.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really play Nakobe and Nicholas Morrow. And Zach Cunningham hasn't been that bad that you'd want to.
I guess you could. I mean, but they've both been playing the mic.
Yeah.
So it's a little redundant. I think they probably like Cunningham more at the weak side position.
I think he's more suited to that. And
also what we've seen with, Cunningham at times will like kind of line up as an outside backer. Like they'll like show a 5-man front and he'll be one of the outside backers and like, Reddick or Sweat on the other side. And then there'll be times where they'll send him as a rusher. There'll be times where they drop him and the same thing with the other guy on the other side. I don't know if you can do that with Morrow.
Yeah. Cunningham's, I think, blitz more than anybody on the team. And Morrow, I think, is second.
Yeah, well, the Cunningham like blitz thing is like he's blitzing sometimes, but he's blitzing as an edge rusher.
Yeah. So, but technically it's a blitz because he's not listed as an edge rusher. Yeah, I agree. But look, Nakobe's the guy. I mean, he's the future of that position. He's going to be here. It's not like if he was playing really bad, he only played 50 snaps or whatever in the opener. If he was an older veteran, if he was like a middling guy, a 1-year contract guy, maybe you could see keeping Morrow in there.
Now, what I will say though is if Nakobe comes out there and is really bad, I think at a certain point you'd owe it to yourself to get the best guy out there.
I think so. That would surprise me.
That would surprise me too. I think he's going to be fine.
Yeah. Look, the 3 sacks, that was great. And it'll be interesting to see if there is a role for Nicholas Morrow once Nakobe is back. You can't just line him out. You just can't put him out there and say blitz when you're out there. Because teams are going to know why he's out there, what he's doing. But it'll be interesting to see if he gets any run. I'm guessing he won't. If they're healthy.
Yeah, it's tough to see it.
I just don't know how you would do that.
Yeah, I don't think it's really a rotational position.
Yeah.
It can be, I guess, but like, I know it's a different defensive coordinator, but last year we're all like, get Nakobe Dean on the field, and they never did.
Right.
And he was a 3rd-round pick.
Right.
Like there was a reason to really try to force him into the defense, and the Eagles didn't do it. The reason to play Morrow is just because you think he can help, but at what cost? I am curious to see that we see these blitzes with Morrow and how effective they were. Nakobe was a really good blitzer at Georgia.
Yeah.
I want to see if that stays in the defense and what he can bring to that.
Yeah, and the Eagles blitz numbers have gone up every week, which has been interesting to watch. So,
and Sean decides, it's just,
yeah, every week's different. But it certainly seems like a trend. They're middle of the pack in blitzing, and they were in middle of the pack last year. I think last year through 5 games they blitzed 56 times, and this year it's 55 times. So that's a good number for coaches who don't blitz. They do blitz.
Yeah, and it will be foolish to blitz 80% of your snaps with this front that the Eagles have.
Sure, the Jets never blitz. That's another story.
Which is really funny because Todd Bowles was their head coach at one point, and all they did was blitz, and now they don't do that.
Yeah. But Nakobe didn't do anything to lose the job. He was fine in the opener before he got hurt. It wasn't a big sample size. But he's the future of the position. Like you said, 3rd-round pick who was expected to go much higher. And, Nicholas Morrow is a guy who's on a 1-year deal and isn't going to probably won't be here next year. So you go with Nakobe. If there was a huge gap, then you say,
Yeah, I don't know what it is if there's a gap, we just haven't seen enough of Nakobe to know.
Right. So,
and honestly, I don't think we've seen enough of Morrow to really know either. It's a relatively small sample size where he's played well. And I think the coaching staff has done a really good job of accentuating his strengths and hiding his weaknesses.
I think
But you see him in coverage, like obviously Cooper Kupp is a tough cover for Nicholas Morrow, but I think that is the one area where presumably Nakobe should be better.
Yeah.
In coverage,
you would think,
which is obviously a big part of this in 2023.
Yeah, it's not Nicholas Morrow's strength. we haven't seen enough Nakobe to know exactly what his strengths are, but he's a guy who is billed as being able to do a little bit of everything well. Tackle, blitz, cover. So I'm looking forward to seeing him.
Yeah, I am too. And you're right about the depth of linebacker. It was a position where they come in this year and you're like, this isn't good enough. They have Zach Cunningham off the street. They have Nicholas Morrow, who wasn't even on the team. Christian Ellis is, I think, a solid backup. But you looked around and you went, I don't know about this group. I think they feel pretty good about it now.
They should.
It's not great.
And then Myles Garrett's a phone call away. Miles Jack. Miles Garrett. Yeah. Miles Austin is a phone call away. It didn't sound right when I said it.
Yeah. I mean, he's a phone call away. I don't think you're going to get him.
Yeah, he's probably on a roof fixing someone's chimney or something. But yeah, I don't know. The last time we talked about like linebackers in this light, it's usually like they got to go get somebody, they got to sign somebody, they got to. Now it's like, oh, they got too many good linebackers.
It's amazing though that like this defense can get by with it. Like they got by with it last year. They had TJ, who was a former undrafted guy. They had Kaiser White, who was on a cheap 1-year deal. This year, like, yes, Nakobe was a 3, but it's not like a major resource. And
he was a 3 only because I mean the first 2 rounds went and they were like, all right, we're gonna start thinking about this guy.
Yeah.
But this is why they're not going to draft a linebacker high in the first round or the second round. I mean, probably not in the third round for quite a while, because there's certain positions where you can do that patchwork thing, and there's certain positions you can't.
Yeah, yeah. I want to see Nakobe play.
You'll get that chance Sunday at 4:25. Okay,
I like you calling your shot there. Sua, no transition here. Sua Opeta. I talked to him yesterday. It is funny. He gets his chance to start with Cam Jurgens on IR. Well, he comes into the game against Washington, and he's got to face Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne, one of the best duos in the league at the position. His first start at the position in the NFL, aside from the playoff game in Tampa in 21, I believe.
Yeah, at right guard. Yeah,
at right guard, he faces Aaron Donald. Now, it wasn't like it was 1-on-1. It was a full team effort against Aaron Donald. But you got to see Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
This week doesn't get any easier. It's a different type of player, but you have Quinnen Williams, and then next week Christian Wilkins, and then you're back to Washington with Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne, and that'll be the 4 weeks. So there's a chance Cam Jurgens will be back after that. But that's a murderer's row right there.
Yeah, Cam's got to be loving it. He's like, all right, you take these guys.
Well, Cam's going to have Chris Jones on the other side of that bye week.
He'll have his hands full. Quinnen Williams only has half a sack.
Yeah, but he's been disruptive. He's good.
All-Pro last year.
He's a great player. Like super powerful. Not as quick as Aaron Donald, but he's a load inside, man.
Yeah, he is. He is. It's the thing that really.
And he has my favorite video clip of all time.
Which one's that?
You don't remember that? The interview where he sneezed and he blessed himself and thanked himself.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He just panicked and God bless you. Thank you.
Former Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith teammate at Alabama, Josh Jobe, I think. I'm really impressed with Sua's approach to all this. And for a guy who hasn't played very much in the NFL, his confidence is really high. And you talked to him yesterday. I talked to him last week. I mean, he's really embracing the challenge. Like he's not trying to hide. He's not trying. He's like, I want to play the best guys out there. And he really thinks he's one of the best guys. And I think if you have that mentality, you have a chance. And I mean, he was really good Sunday in LA. And yeah, he's going to have to keep that up. It can't hurt to have Hall of Fame caliber guys on both sides of you. And Stout is your coach. And I think Stout loves getting guys like him ready, undrafted.
Yeah, I mean,
has been cut a bunch of times.
Sua was just like super talented physically when he got in the league, but he was very unrefined. Like he didn't know how to be an offensive lineman, and we always talk about the Jeff Stoutland project. Sua's right up there.
Yeah, you think about it. 60% of their starting O-line right now is an undrafted guy, a rugby player, never played college football, and a 6th-round pick who was a linebacker when he got to college. You know, he's just again, I've said this before, he's a magician. I mean, he's with a guy like Lane he's great too. But I think he really loves, getting these long shot type of guys into.
Yeah, and there have been others. Nate Herbig undrafted.
Sure, started 17 games for the Eagles.
Yeah, Brett Toth hasn't really worked out the same way, but he's sticking around.
Yeah, he's on the practice squad still. Yeah, and
that's why when you see like a Trevor Reed come into camp, I mark him down like, let's see what this guy has. Didn't work out, but that's why you give him those projects.
Like a Julian Good-Jones, who's a guy that we could see play one day. Wouldn't surprise me. Even like Big Fred,
Fred Johnson. Yeah.
Fred Johnson, who never made a roster before, has bounced around, maybe for a week or two, but
backup left tackle on this team.
Yeah, so I don't think he was drafted, right? He was a late round pick somewhere.
Yeah, I believe so.
No, he was undrafted.
Was he?
Undrafted.
Fred was drafted
out of Florida. So I mean and I'm sure every team has those type of guys, but I think Stoutland really relishes that part of his job. And his biggest failure was a first round pick. So it wasn't his failure, obviously. Anyway, I've been really impressed with Sua and his. He's a guy that always prepares. And the thing about Sua, like he's been here for 5 years. So he's had 5 years with Stout, 5 years with Lane and Kelsey.
The one guy he brought up to me though was Isaac.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
And this is not uncommon. Like Isaac was one of those guys who helped everyone, and he never got the credit for it publicly. Yeah. But Sua said him and Isaac after every practice would sit down and go over everything, like the practice tape. They'd go over game tape. They'd go over their opponents, and he said it kind of taught him a ton just being around that guy for so long.
You hear that from a lot of guys about, and like Isaac never spoke to us, or if he did, you could barely hear him. Yeah. So you kind of make assumptions about him based on that, and they're not accurate because every player
very curmudgeonly.
Every player swore by Isaac, and I think. Who was it? Kelsey said he's like one of the smartest players he's ever been around.
Yeah.
Like Isaac?
Oh, Isaac's very smart.
I think the Steelers starting guards right now are Herbig and Isaac, right?
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Isaac's been playing pretty well for them.
That's good. Yeah.
I couldn't believe it at Super Bowl week last year when Isaac poured his heart out to me.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. I haven't thought I think I've told this before, but I'll keep it brief. During the Super Bowl, you have like these media days where there are like a couple players at each table, and then there's like the big name guys at microphones. But Isaac was at a table with like, I don't know, one of the other backup offensive linemen, I think. So I sat down with him, and he talked to me for like a half hour about like mental health and what he went through in his career. And I think it was just because he was a captive audience and he couldn't walk away from me and go play ping pong. But I really appreciate it. I even told him the next day I saw him. I was like, I thank you for your time. I think that's more than I've ever talked to you in the the 6 years or 7 years you've been here. But he has it in him. Yeah,
the whole dynamic, and we talked about this back in the winter. I had the longest conversation of my life with Josh Sweat, who, when he gets going, like if you get him out in the hallway or something, he's pretty good. But I don't know if I told this story, but I was talking to him about, the 70 sacks and stuff like that. And I think it was about just the depth of pass rushers they had. And like, he like burped in the middle of the interview, and he just starts cracking up. And I just got up and walked away laughing. And he like comes after, he's like, no, let's finish the conversation. It was just, and then this is a guy that you never see in a locker room, but once you get to,
he's strategic.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's like you've said, these guys that don't want anything to do with you back, here, when they get there, they don't know anybody and they see us and we're like their best friends. It's a strange dynamic. But
speaking of guys who have been hiding a little bit, Lane Johnson finally talked to us on Wednesday.
First time
all year. Like
preseason.
I think he does a paid post game show.
Okay.
But like hasn't been around in the locker room during the week, and
he'll have stretches like this.
Yeah, and look, Lane has built up enough equity over the years. He's been great to us, so we don't cause a fuss too much. But we were asking to talk to him, and that happened finally on Wednesday. it was good to see him. I don't think I've even like seen him other than
He's
on the
never in the
field.
locker room. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a guy like we've known for a decade, so it was nice to just see him. But talked about the injury and like getting over. He obviously had that core injury. He said it was a lot easier to get over than the ankle, but he admitted there was some like scar tissue he had to work through, early in the season. But he's feeling pretty good now, which is great for him and great for the team.
And he's playing great. And it's almost like I think part of it is like Kelsey is such a personality, and he's so visible, and the camera loves Kelsey. And I think Lane is just, by his nature, he's just a quiet guy. And so you sometimes just forget how good he is just because he doesn't do interviews very often. And he's kind of in the shadow of Kelsey in some ways. I mean, just the podcast, just the visibility, his brother and everything. Lane's really, really good. And
Lane might be the best player on the team.
He might be if it's not Jalen Carter. But yeah, I think he's the best right tackle in the game, and he's so consistent. And I still think it's incredible what he did last year with that injury. The level he played at in the postseason was nuts. I don't know how he did that. He must have been in so much pain, even though he said he wasn't. Believe it.
I remember that first game.
You could see him wince.
He was wincing. He was like trying to
stretch.
Yeah.
And
you thought, oh man, this isn't going to last long. Then he settled down. He worked it through a little bit, and he learned how to play with it.
That's what he said. He said he learned each week more and more how to play with it. Like somebody said, well, does that mean you don't have to get to surgery? He's like, oh no, I'm getting surgery the day after the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But he's a warrior.
I remember him telling me, I caught up with him on the field after the NFC Championship game. I think it was the first time he'd done an interview just about learning how to play with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't want people to forget about how good he is and how consistent he is. And, he was certainly a huge part of neutralizing Aaron Donald on Sunday. Huge part.
Yeah. He shuts everyone down. Keon White gave him a little bit of a fit in that first game. And I wonder if that's just because that's a young player. It's a rookie. You don't have tape on. Lane is such a student. Like, he studies his pass rushers so much that obviously you have college tape as a kid, but it's a little different. I haven't seen him in the scheme. I wonder if that played a role.
It could be part of it. Could have been just still trying to figure out, like, work through the scar tissue or whatever it was. It was the first game.
But it's funny, like, a bad game for Lane is a game that, like, 80%, 90% of all the tackles in the league would be like, I would love to have that game.
He didn't play in the preseason. So that was the first time he'd played since the Super Bowl. So,
a bad Lane game is a great game for a lot of tackles in this league.
Yeah. So they're lucky they have him. And he signed for like another 17 years.
Yeah. That's all I have about Lane. The injury report came out on Wednesday. Now we're recording this podcast on Thursday morning, so we don't have the benefit of seeing who's out there on the field for this practice. So that's a little tricky, but no Darius Slay, no Justin Evans on Wednesday. Two starters in the secondary, and Slay is obviously one of their best players. And
Garrett Wilson on the other side of the field.
Yeah. Kind of a surprise. He played every snap against the Rams, all 56, and then he pops up with a knee injury.
And Evans played
all of them too. No, he played all of them.
I thought he played all but 3. But they've had so many injuries in the secondary. I mean, so I think Slay's the only guy that started every game, right?
Yes.
And now we'll see what happens, but it's a concern. And they've had a different starting lineup in the secondary every week. Bradbury missed a game. Reed missed a game. Avante's out. Zach McPherson's been done for a while. It's been bad. Justin Evans missed 2 games. He might just be a guy that's always hurt.
Well, I mean,
he is always hurt.
Yeah, it's kind of his thing. He's missed a ton of time in the NFL.
Yeah. Physical player.
At what point do they just have to say, well, Sidney Brown's been hurt too. He missed last week with the hamstring, but he's been back. I think he's probably trending toward playing this week, even though he was limited to start.
Yeah, that's a concern.
Hamstrings can be tricky, man.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. Like, anyone who's ever suffered a hamstring injury at any level is like, the second you think it's going to heal, you make one wrong move and you got to start over again.
That's exactly true. I mean, he was pretty optimistic when I talked to him late last week that he'd be okay for the Jets, but the fact that he's limited is concerning.
But if he's back, if he's back and Justin Evans can't play, I've seen enough of Terrell Edmonds.
Yeah, me too.
I think he's just a limited player, and they're gonna be rough moments with Sydney, but I think you got to rip the Band-Aid off if that's the situation.
I'm not sure they think like that.
I know they don't.
Yeah.
That's the way I think.
I think it'll be Edmonds.
Yeah, probably.
Especially because Sydney will be coming off an injury at that point.
I think it gives you a better shot.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
They probably trust Edmonds more.
Yeah.
He's a veteran, and I get all that, but yeah, I've kind of seen enough.
Yeah. But the secondary, it's funny how injuries follow a position.
Mm-hmm.
You see it so much.
We've seen it here before. I mean, we've seen the cornerback position get decimated before here.
Yeah. So that's a little scary. But yeah, we'll see. We'll know more later in the week, but certainly something to keep an eye on.
Good injury news. Fletcher Cox back at practice. He was limited on Wednesday.
Did he play corner? Did he play safety?
I don't think so. I mean, he could. I don't think he'd want him to. I don't think he'd want to. I think he'll be back this week. I think that was the plan. Miss one game, get him back on the field. If he can play, he's going to play.
Yeah. He's such a tough guy.
They got a limited snaps, though.
Yeah, and I wonder how – well, I mean, they just didn't have many defensive snaps Sunday at all. So when you see, Jalen Carter played 70%, but it was only 38 snaps. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to see him a little higher and Fletch a little lower.
I would, too. I think last year they basically evened out Fletcher and Javon Hargrave. There's no reason Jalen Carter can't do the same. Now, I get the thing where you're worried about a rookie taking all these snaps and if that rookie wall comes, but that's the benefit of having played at Georgia. He's used to playing longer than other guys.
Yeah. I think you kind of, I get what they're doing. He's right around 50%, I think. Mm-hmm. I get that, but I think he's probably ready to ramp that up.
It's hard to keep him off the field.
Yeah.
He's excellent.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're that rotation is going to be interesting to follow because I think Fletch has been playing too much.
Probably. And he's playing really well too. You want him to be able to maintain that level for a whole season at age 32.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take a break. We have some matchups on the other side.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we've got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store and NissanUSA.com today.
Catch all the sports action and more at Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Whether it's the money line or the pass line, there's something for everyone in a great sports book. Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Philly loves a winner. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. A number 2 pencil on this desk. I don't think I've seen an old school number 2 pencil in a really long time.
What brand? Is it a Ticonderoga?
It's not a Ticonderoga. That was the brand I used to use. This is a Dixon Oriole.
Really? Yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Wouldn't it be funny if I was sponsored by Ticonderoga pencils and you were sponsored by Dixon pencils?
Competing pencil companies?
Yeah.
Conflicts of interest.
You think?
I don't know.
I don't use pencils anymore. You use pencils for anything?
No, I like the idea of a pencil, but I don't. I like that you can change, you can erase. I like that, but I don't. It's too light. I like to see the pen.
Yeah,
and I'm a black pen guy. You're a blue pen guy.
Yeah, Jeff offered and I blue pens only.
Yeah, I'm a classic Bic clicky top. We know you're a clicky top guy. We hear you sometimes.
It's got to be. I don't have a pen on me, but it's got to be a blue gel pen.
I don't like the smoothness of that writing.
Yeah, it's got to be a blue gel pen. It's funny. I'll be at a restaurant. Can you sign? Can you sign this thing? And they'll give me a black pen. I'm like, oh no. I have my own. I will not use a black pen. It was funny because I had to sign some legal documents recently. I don't want to get into too much detail, but the
Thank you for putting me in your will, by the way.
The attorney was
it.
like, hands me a black pen. I'm like, no, I. He's like, no, you have to use this black pen. I'm like, no, I have my own. No. So.
Is that a thing? Legal documents have to be in black?
Well, this one apparently did. Yeah.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, because it was something that had to be notarized, and I don't know.
Okay.
But he was very serious about it.
All right.
Yeah, so.
We're very particular about our stationery.
Our stationery?
Is stationery include pens? No, probably.
No,
not.
I don't think so.
Is stationery just paper?
Yeah.
What would you call it?
Writing
utensils?
Writing instrument? Writing utensil? I don't know. Writing instrument.
Instrument. That's good.
But we are particular about our stationery as well.
Yes.
Like I use a bigger pad than you, except during training camp, I use that tiny little pad because I can stick it in my pocket.
That's why I have the skinnier notebook so I can put it in my back pocket.
Yeah. And then there's Elliot who has a lanyard. He has a notebook on a lanyard and he walks around with his notebook. It's
a clipboard.
Yeah.
During training camp.
Clipboard with a notebook on it and walks around with a lanyard with a clipboard hanging.
We all have our
proclivities.
Things.
Yeah. Okay.
Proclivity. That's a good word. Did you hear what Robert Saleh said about the quarterback sneak? Whatever you want to call it.
Just what you told me.
Yeah. Everyone's going to run with the headline that he said he wants that they have to give Jalen 11 kisses, meaning they're going to hit him.
Yeah.
Like that's not unusual. You should hit the quarterback on a QB sneak. He has the football.
Yeah.
But he was aside from that, he was just very complimentary of the play. And he was asked why it works so well. And he said the truth. It's not because like he didn't mention the push once.
Right.
The push is such a silly part of this conversation. It's because they have a great offensive line and they have a quarterback. Now he did bring up that Jalen looks like he has a bulletproof vest on and it's probably tough to hurt him, but a lot of quarterbacks wear the extra padding.
Yeah. And I mean, it's probably not the safest play ever, but
I mean, I think it's relatively safe for the quarterback. The one guy who is probably not safe for is Kelsey because he takes a beating every time.
Yeah, he does.
He's going low.
You just see him come out of there just like hobbling back to the yeah.
But I thought it was like Saleh was it's funny because that one bit of it is they're going to try to hit Jalen, but he was like legally we're going to try to hit him, but
I mean every team tries to hit the quarterback at every play.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Yeah, we'll see.
You want to get into some of these matchups?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. Since we already kind of mentioned it, I on my matchup, I might have to change this by the time this runs on Friday, but I have Darius Slay versus Garrett Wilson. I gave you a break there so you could tell me. That's a big matchup in this game because this is
I have to say, I was doing a huddle with Taryn. I think it was Taryn one day, and Darius Slay was in the prompter, and she said Darius Slay like 9 times, and each time I just yelled Slay. She's getting a little mad at me, but it was funny. Anyway,
this would be a perfect game to travel Slay with Wilson.
Yeah,
because you have Lazard on the other side, who kind of I think matches up better with Bradbury.
Sure,
but you might not have that. I don't know what's the deal with Slay is going to be, but this is like the perfect game to move him around because Wilson also doesn't play a ton in the slot.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's what makes sense. And we'll see if I mean, we don't know anything about the injury. The fact that he finished the game tells me maybe it's not that serious. And we'll see. But that's what you want. And if you don't have him, now you have Joe back in the mix, who I don't think played any defensive snaps on Sunday. And that's the way it's been. It's like 1 week Goodrich won't play. The next week he's playing 40 snaps. It's just been weird just because of the inactives and the injuries. But Garrett Wilson's really good. And he's not, I mean, his numbers haven't been the same as last year, but
yeah, he's a great player.
Great player. He's one of those guys where the ball just like is sticky when he gets his hands on it. It just kind of sticks there. So, yeah, I mean, they have some good players. Certainly on offense.
They do. He's really fun. And then Lazard is okay. Randall Cobb is there. He's obviously a little long in the tooth now, but how about that first round in 2022 for the Jets? Sauce at number 4 overall, Garrett Wilson at number 10, and then Jermaine Johnson at 26.
Yeah.
And then Breece Hall in the second round.
Breece Hall in the second round.
They got in the 4th round? Max Mitchell, who might have to start at tackle this week because Elijah Vera Tucker is out.
another injury for him, which is a shame.
He's a really good player.
Yeah, he's just missed. This will be 2 years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's. I mean, which one are we talking about now? Brees Hall or
No,
Max Mitchell?
Max Mitchell, because Hassan Reddick typically rushes on that side, on the right tackle side of the line, left end for defense. But eventually they might get Mekhi Becton back over there when Dwayne Brown comes back, but Dwayne's not back yet.
Right.
So it's going to be probably Max Mitchell, and Hassan Reddick just feasts on any backup lineman they throw at him.
Yeah, and I think we're really seeing the difference between Hassan Reddick wearing that cast and not. And I know he didn't want to use it as an excuse, but it was bothering him. It was affecting him. I mean, he just couldn't play his game. And I think when they have 5 sacks in the Washington game and 4 Sunday, something like that, because Carter had 2 and Hassan had 2. I think that was it, right? So they've got 9 sacks in their last 2 games after 6 in their first 3 games, something like that, which is encouraging, whether they're blitzes or, pressure from the front. For this thing to work, for this defense to work, they need to get that kind of pressure. And Reddick seems like he's back to being his old self. And they've gotten some breaks. They've played some beat up O-lines.
They have, but they capitalize. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
Because honestly, offensive linemen get hurt, and not all teams have the depth the Eagles have at the position.
Yeah, and I think they're the matchup late in games between a rested group of Eagles pass rushers and an O-line that's been kind of beaten down during the game is such a good matchup for the Eagles.
Josh Sweat didn't have a sack against the Rams, but he was terrific too.
Yeah, he was.
Jalen Carter has been their best defensive player. Josh Sweat's right there.
Yeah, I agree with that.
He's been very, very good. Yeah. And you have him against Becton on the other side. I think that's, Becton's kind of hit or miss. He's obviously a giant, but I like that matchup for the Eagles too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting one. My 17 sack prediction for Sweat, I'm sticking with it. He just needs one 4 sack game to be back on that pace.
He has 2.5 through 5 games, but he's better than he was last year. He's a better player.
Yeah.
He's been very good. He has 9 quarterback hits through 5 games.
Yeah, that's almost 2 a game.
Yeah. That's good. That's good math.
It's crazy that Sweat's only 26, just turned 26.
He's gotten better every year he's been in the league.
He has.
By year 10, have a 50 sack year.
Again, 4th round pick. You don't count on finding guys like that in the 4th round.
No, that was maybe Howie's best draft class without a 1st round pick.
Yeah.
Eagles run defense has been excellent. They're going to face a really good running back in Brees Hall. This could be the matchup of the game, because if they stuff Brees Hall and you put this game on Zach Wilson, it's probably game over.
Yeah, and he had a $177 against Denver last weekend. I think he had a 72-yard run.
Yeah, all the Denver stats should come with little asterisks.
It's true, and it's like I was looking at the Dolphins are ahead of the Eagles in most offensive, but half their stats came in one game.
Yeah.
So as the year goes on, they'll kind of, that game will be a lower percentage of their stats, but he's good. I mean, he's really good. He had 100.
I'm glad he's back. That was a shame he got hurt last year.
Yeah, middle of the season. But he had a $127 against the Bills early in the year. That's a really good defense.
Yeah, week 1.
Yeah,
came out of the gate with it.
Yeah. So what's he averaging, 8 yards a carry? Because I think Swift is second. He's averaging 7.2. And
those are Rashad Penny numbers.
Well, no, he's playing though. But yeah, I think that is the matchup of the game. And what the Eagles do so well is, if they convert in the red zone and build up a lead and force you to throw the ball, it takes a guy like Brees Hall out of the game. Although he's a good receiver.
He is, but if you got to rely to throwing to him, in clear passing situations, the Eagles would probably take that.
Exactly. So I think that's part of the reason they're so good against the run is because teams give up on it. So that's an interesting matchup, definitely.
And they are good against the run.
They're really good. Yeah. Well, they give up on a because they're so good and they can't run, and
they get behind. Yeah.
And they get behind, but you can throw against the Eagles. So, and especially if Slay's not out there, I mean,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have a ton of faith in Zach Wilson. He's had some really good moments this year.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, if he ever played well, I mean, they have a really good team around. They have a good defense. They have weapons. He's the big question mark on this team.
Sure.
And if he could, like, you think about Sam Howell, I mean, he had his best game ever against the Eagles. And that's why it was a game. Like, so, because they've got other good players. So they've got, they're lucky that they're not facing a bunch of elite quarterbacks right in this early stretch. Because they're trying to figure some stuff out in the secondary and dealing with injuries. But yeah, if he lights them up, it's going to be a challenge.
We can kind of go through some of these with the Eagles on offense a little quicker. AJ Brown and Devontae Smith against maybe the best cornerback duo they'll see all year, and Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed. This one is interesting because Nick Sirianni thinks every week the Eagles have an advantage with their receivers, and he's right. I mean, the Eagles' top 2 receivers are excellent, but this is as close as they're going to see to a fair competition all year.
Yeah, Sauce is just out of this world, and DJ Reed's pretty good.
Very good.
Yeah, so
he's one of those rare short outside corners where it doesn't seem to affect him.
Yeah, you're right.
Although you get him one-on-one against AJ, I'll still take AJ.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they line up. But Sauce is just fun to watch. He's such a playmaker. I mean, from day one.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
He was all pro as a rookie.
He was.
Doesn't happen.
No.
Yeah. Dallas Goedert has a chance for a big game, especially if you don't feel as great about the outside matchups. The Jets will give up some yards to tight ends. We've seen that this year. 289 yards, so 9th worst in the NFL against opposing tight ends.
Pharaoh Brown had a big game against him.
He did 2 catches for 71 yards, but Travis Kelce's the one, 6 catches for 60 yards. So
That's like a bad day for him, though.
Well, yeah, but that's for him. He's an excellent player, but I think that's the type of performance you can expect from Dallas in this game. Yeah,
and it was good to see him get him involved. I think the first few weeks when we look at Dallas's numbers at the end of the year, it's gonna be an anomaly.
Well, I don't know. It was such a long stretch that
it was concerning.
It was concerning, and I don't like. We'll see what it looks like at the end of the year, but he's going to need a lot of big games to balance it out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure he'll, get his 1,000 yards at this point, but I think it was just good to see him look like the Dallas of old.
Yeah. DeAndre Swift, this run defense from New York is not great. They have a good team. I think, Swift has a chance to do some damage on the ground.
Yeah, and I mean, I think he's only 139 yards short of his career high in rushing yards for a season.
And it's not like the Lions have a bad offensive line.
No.
Pretty good offensive line.
But he's so much better. It's kind of like AJ Brown. I think once you get in this offense with these weapons around you and this O-line, like look at Miles Sanders. Like, I mean, I don't think he's a bad player, but what's he averaging? 3.1?
It's different, yeah.
It's just a different thing. And Swift was good in Detroit. But, I mean, he's one of the best running backs in the NFL right now. I think he's 4th in rushing yards and 5th in scrimmage yards and didn't play in the first game.
Yeah. Isn't that funny to think back on?
It is. I've been really impressed with him.
Me too.
And he's got, I think, 10 catches in the last 2 games, so they're starting to use him more as a receiver.
Nick Sirianni woke me up with his comparison on just one element, but he did compare Swift's ability to make a cut and accelerate to that of Jamal Charles.
Yeah, which is pretty lofty company.
One of my favorite running backs of all time.
Jamal Charles. We spent the whole walk back from the auditorium to the media house trying to come up with the name of different Chiefs running backs. They've always had, I think Barry Word was the guy we couldn't think of, but Christian Okoye. And
we were like, who's the guy who was with Okoye?
Yeah, they've always had good one. I think it's that uniform. Players look fast in that uni.
Okay.
But
uniform guy over here.
He was basically saying Swift has this rare ability to go full speed, make a cut, and get back to full speed, which is true. And he's been better than I expected.
He's been great.
And
really explosive player.
Yeah.
It's just like you see, like Gainwell is doing really good things. He really is. And I appreciate that they keep bringing that up, because like the play on that third down catch, he chips Aaron Donald, gets out to the flat, catches the ball, moves the chains. Like that's a big play. He was great in pass protection, but there's a different level of explosiveness when DeAndre Swift's on the field.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And starting to, like, Howie's not in the habit of giving out contracts to running backs, but I'm starting to think there's some reason to think he might. Swift's only 24, hasn't had a big workload. Those are the two main things.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation, especially this early in the process.
Yeah.
And I think there are more reasons to give him a contract than Miles. I think he has a different level of explosiveness.
Yeah.
I think he is a more well-rounded player than Miles.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if he'll break the bank for him.
3 years younger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know if they'll break. I mean, they're not going to break the bank for any running back, but
no one else is either.
True. Except maybe the Colts.
We'll see.
But
that Zach Moss has looked pretty good.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm a big fan. Been impressed.
One of my matchups is Quinnen Williams, since we already talked about him the last one. Two of the better punt returners in the NFL in this game. And I'll be honest, I put part of this in just to remind everyone how good Britton Covey is, averaging 16.9. Just seems like he has a 20-yard return in every game, just about. But Xavier Gibson.
Well, he does 4 out of 5 games. He's had a 20-yard return every game other than Minnesota,
which is just about every game.
80%.
Yeah. Thanks.
And he only had like 2 20-yard returns last year.
Yeah, he's much better. And the blocking's been better for him, too.
Yeah.
But Xavier Gibson's a big-time player, undrafted kid. I know you didn't watch Hard Knocks. He was one of the big storylines of that show, and he makes the team, and he has that big touchdown in the opener. He's been good aside from that, too, though.
Yeah. Yeah, this game could come down to Michael Clay.
Which, by the way, is a pretty good thing this year. The Eagles special teams have been very, very good.
Gave up a couple long kick returns early. I think there was one other, and obviously the punting's been an issue. I don't really blame Michael Clay for that. But they've been solid. They've been better.
I've been extremely impressed by them. And like most metrics have them among the league leaders in special teams.
Who would have thunk it?
Yeah. Give them a lot of credit. And it's like they lost some of their big contributors on special teams.
Yeah, they really did.
Maybe that was a good. No, I don't think so. But they have some young players who are playing well, whether it's, Keely Ringo, Eli Ricks.
Well, those two were the first
especially those two.
Yeah.
And some of the mainstays have been, Jack Stoll and Patrick Johnson.
Yeah.
Been impressed by that unit.
That's the one thing about having a lot of cornerbacks, young cornerbacks.
Yeah, they play special teams, or they're better.
And they should be good. I mean, they should be guys that can run and be physical.
In theory. Yeah. Which way are you leaning?
I'm leaning Eagles.
Okay.
I certainly think they're going to win. I think it's a tough game.
Do you?
I think it's a tough game. The weather doesn't look good. It's a great equalizer. I don't think the Jets are a bad team. I just think they have a young, inconsistent quarterback.
Every time someone tells me the weather doesn't look good when I have to drive to MetLife, I get a little uneasy.
Visions of lightning hitting you going through the toll booth.
Yeah. That'll be fun.
Well, you got a nice new car out of the deal.
Might get another one
on Monday morning.
Monday, yeah. I don't think it's a tough game.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they should win this convincingly.
You could be right. I don't have a score yet, but I'm sure I'll pick 2-possession game.
Okay.
But I don't have a score. I'll probably do that today. Yeah. And I still, you know what? I picked the Rams, and I'm good with that prediction, even though I was wrong. That was what I felt.
Yeah, the worst thing you can do when you're predicting stuff is to go against your gut, and then it ends up happening, and then you feel like an idiot.
Right. So I thought the Eagles played really, really well in that game. It was their best all-around game. And, yeah. It
was the first game fans came out of it and went, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. And we're seeing gradual growth in a lot of areas, which is encouraging.
Yeah. In a way, it's like a little nice that they have all these clear areas they have to fix, and the red zone is still one of them, but a long time to fix it.
Absolutely.
One thing before we leave, I wanted to get your take on this. I don't know if you've been really following the Phillies run, but I'll give you a brief summary here. I want to get your take on it.
Sure.
So after the game in Atlanta, one of the Braves players, Orlando Arcio, was overheard. You know this?
Yeah, I did.
So overheard making a comment about Bryce Harper
on the tag play or the double play
at the end of the game. A reporter hears it, reports it, and then it obviously becomes fuel, and it stare down and everything.
So I thought a mic didn't pick it up.
No, and it was not a microphone. It was an overheard comment from in the locker room, in the clubhouse.
I'm going to interrupt. At the vet, the Eagles locker room was the same as the Phillies clubhouse. So it was the
locker room one day.
It was the same room, and it had different names depending on what team was in there.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. So it was an overheard comment that was true. Arcia confirmed it was true. Thought it would never get out. What do you make of that? Because now the Braves are like questioning the sanctity of the clubhouse, but it was a period where the reporters were in there. They're walking around.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as, if the clubhouse is open,
it was open.
The club
reporters
is open.
were in there.
Do you know what song that is? The club is open.
No, I don't.
Disarm the settlers. All right, we'll talk. You can look that one up, but yeah, I think it's fine.
Okay,
I think it's totally fine. I mean, if it's, see, I think there are some areas where it's a fine line. Like I remember once we were waiting to get in the locker room after a game, and we heard like, I can't remember if it was Kotite, Ray Bob. We heard the coach screaming at the team. They'd gotten killed. It's probably Kotite. and I remember PR didn't want us writing it. We're like, well, I mean, we're waiting outside. We heard it, and we thought it was fair game, and we did write about it. But
yeah, sometimes it's tricky, and it's like sometimes it comes down to the relationships, and I don't think there's like a rule. There's no steadfast rule that says you can't.
Yeah. It's like that. Was it USC? Was that the college football program that suspended a media member a couple of weeks ago for something she heard a player say, like just on campus?
I thought it was, I heard a different thing maybe.
I don't know. It was like not during and they suspended her and I kind of see that. Like if you just overhear something, I don't know. There's some fine lines there.
Yeah, but in the clubhouse is when the players are aware that there are reporters there. It's always a weird thing to be in. It's their space, but it's our time to be in their space, which is a weird thing.
Yeah.
Try to be respectful of it, but also like you're in there to do a job.
There's some things you hear that you're like, there's just no reason to, to report it. But something like that, I think, raises to the level of being newsworthy.
Yeah, and certainly has become newsworthy.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get your take.
No, it's an interesting question.
Yeah, it's like a good case study for college programs.
Yeah,
not like football programs. I mean, like college, like journalism programs.
Press ethics and the law is one of my favorite classes in college.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, let's wrap this up.
You didn't tell me who you think the Eagles win easy?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think I said that, right? Yeah, they're gonna. I think it's gonna be a nice win for them.
I need another orange juice.
You finished that orange juice.
Yeah.
Wow. How many ounces?
This would be 12 ounces.
Okay. Yeah. Look at you go. All right. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click that like button and subscribe there as well. We appreciate all the feedback and all the nice reviews. We do read them, and it is nice to hear. So that's it for Rube. I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye presented by Nissan. We'll talk to you after the game on Sunday.